player. DeQuell Jackson, we've had former players on. You've been on before. Joe Thomas, Bernie Kosar, yesterday Leroy Horde. They all pretty much said the same thing. Yeah, Baker can be that guy. So why is it there's such a space between what a lot of the media and the fans are saying about Baker and what those that have played the game for a living are saying about Baker? And where do you fall?
I think all you guys bring really great points, and I was listening, and I don't disagree with any of you guys. I think it's a matter of where you are as a player, a current player. I think I heard someone talk about players not coming out and defending him. Yeah. Well, I think a lot has to do with, hey, listen, I don't want to get in the middle of that. My contract situation isn't tied up like it should be. I want to stay away from that. Let front office deal with it. In terms of disparity between, it is. And in terms of the different perspectives of Baker and how people feel about him, former players, media, I think G hit it on the head in terms of his charisma, that charismatic leadership. I think it goes a long way, and you tend to overlook a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, when you look at the film, when you look at the time Baker Mayfield has been with the Browns, can you unequivocally say he's the guy for the next 10 years?
Definitely
If you can't say that right away, then and you have a chance to upgrade at that position, like a Deshaun Watson, an elite quarterback, you pull the trigger on that. It's no way. There's no way you can not kick the tires with bringing him in. But in terms of who do we talk about? Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow talking about, he's not had success against the Browns. I get all of that. But as a current player, the cardinal rule in the locker room, which every coach will say, never talk about another man's contract.
That's right.
Never talk to the media about another player, especially on our team or outside of
and by the way, one guy who
Baker made that mistake once early in his career
and
learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah.
Don't put my name in your mouth when it comes to my business. And that's why players aren't commenting on it.
That's right. And DeQuell, in the end, the game has changed so much, even since you've retired, right? The game is so much more than ever, it's about the quarterback. And if you look at the AFC, I don't know if we've ever seen a better group of quarterbacks. You've got Joe Burrow. You've got Lamar Jackson. You've got Josh Allen, Mahomes, Herbert. Russell Wilson's almost an afterthought. I mean, it's crazy.
Right.
It's crazy. Derek Carr's like the 9th or 10th best quarterback in this division, and he's a really good player. You can. I don't care what anybody says. With Baker Mayfield is not better than any of those guys. You cannot go to the Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield as your quarterback. You could have 15 years ago. 20 years ago, if you had a great defense, great running game, I don't think you can win that way anymore with a decent quarterback. He's decent. But I don't think you can win in this NFL, especially in this AFC, anymore.
You agree with that, DeQuell?
Yeah, I don't, because I think you can. Because you look at, again, when I played the game, you look at the Baltimore Ravens. They won I never thought Joe Flacco was this, box office type of talent, but they had the team around him to get it done. Do I think a team can win with Baker Mayfield if all the pieces are surrounded around him? It's hard to make an argument for it because this team was built for him. This team, all he had to do was
manage it,
not screw it up, and have success with this team. So I think that's where the criticism comes into play when you look at who he had in the backfield, his targets, OBJ, Jarvis Landry, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. A great offensive line, a great defense, and he couldn't get it done. And you look at and you grade this team, you look at where are their weaknesses. It was unfortunately he had to take a lot of this blame because he wasn't this box office, difference maker. He was just a guy on a team. So it's hard for me I agree with this point. When you're front office in the Cleveland Browns, you have to look at who you're competing against.
Right.
And all the quarterbacks you listed, and look in your own conference. Joe Burrow was in the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah,
so you have to make it.
In your division, they're all Heisman guys. Right. They're all, with the exception of Pittsburgh now, but.
Yeah.
So it forces you to make those tough decisions early, and you have to make them quick. And you know what? I respect they actually pulled the trigger. In years past, they would have been in conversation, but nothing would have been done. But again, I sympathize with Baker on this regard. he's a charismatic guy. He clearly wants to be there. He's in a really tough situation, but this is the business of football. You have to learn it very early. And if he enjoys playing football, it shouldn't matter what helmet you're playing, as long as you get to play the game that you love. And unfortunately for him, it's a really dicey situation that he has to mature. He has to go about it in a mature way. It just sucks to be in his position personally.
DeQuil, Brad Sellers, let's talk pro player to pro player here, right? So
Yes.
there are rules and etiquette here, right? So,
Yeah.
one, there's a responsibility. You talked about it. There was a rule in the NBA, unwritten rule. We should say, never look in the next man's locker because you get yourself in trouble. Just worry about your own locker, right? So, and you understand what that means, right? So that means you got to come out and take care of your own business. The other thing is there's a personal responsibility about, and I want you to speak to this, right? If you hit the floor, if you hit the field, you're telling everyone, the players that you play with, the coaches that you can play today, right? Do not come back to me later and say, well, I was banged up, right? Don't.
Yeah.
Then sit it on down.
Yeah.
Right? Sit it on down.
Yeah.
So if Baker hit the field, that tells me what? That he was ready to go, right?
Right. And no one cares that because everyone is playing with something. And if you hit that field, then you're healthy enough to help us win. Period. I don't care what sport it is, especially in football, in the locker room, everyone is dealing with something. And listen, that is a part of the learning curve. Next time this comes around, I'm sure he's gonna sit his butt down.
Yes,
He can't help a team win.
Sit down.
Because he doesn't have that Patrick Mahomes type of talent. He's got to learn the hard way. Yes. Yeah. And listen, I had to learn the hard way a lot. Many other guys had to learn the hard way. It's just now him learning the hard way is on public display for everyone, and you got to deal with it. That's the nature of the game.
DeQuil, I gotta let me see if you vibe. And G. Bush here. Let me see if you vibe with this. I got a theory.
Okay.
I was thinking about it about 2 weeks ago. I said, look, when Odell Beckham Jr. got cut, right? They came out, the whole media saw the tape or whatever the case may be. I think as Baker Mayfield, if he was thinking 3 steps and not playing checkers and he was playing chess, I think he's still here if he goes and says this in the media. Odell Beckham Jr. will be on this team. I will get him the ball. If I need to work with him every single day, if we got to live together every single day, he will be here. We are not, he is vital to what we are doing to this program. If he comes out and says that in the media, and the Browns say, okay, we'll keep him for the rest of the year, we already know they weren't going to bring him back. What that does is set you up with the rest of the locker room. You don't lose all the Odell people. You still got those people because you said, hey, I stood up for him. At the end of the day, I wanted him to be here. I think if he would have handled that just a tiny bit better, people going to give you the benefit of the doubt now because they're like, well, hey, it was a bad relationship, but look at the way Baker handled with that leadership.
He was trying to make it work.
He was trying to make it work.
Yeah. What do you think about that, DeQuil?
Man, that's a great point because the quarterback, his say goes a very long way. And when your quarterback goes to bat for you and your receiver, he knows you better than anyone on that side of the ball. So you're right. The fact that he's been outspoken about a lot of different things, he'll attack the media if they say one bad thing about him. But yet you have a guy in your locker room that is a talent that's going to help you. He's the talent, and you don't come out and publicly make and endorse him that, hey, he's going to be on this team. He's my leader. I need him. He can help us win. That goes a long way in the locker room. If he were to have done that, you're right, G. He would have kept his guys that didn't want him to leave. They would have galvanized towards Baker Mayfield. It's just it just goes to his leadership. When you look at his leadership, was it just charismatic? Did it have some substance to it? Because those are the things that if I were in those shoes, if I were a quarterback, you understand the powers that you have, and your say goes a very long way with the front office. So you're right. I agree with that 1,000%.
In that same vein, DeQuil, I think back to when last year they beat the Lions, right? The Lions were terrible. It was an ugly game. They barely won. And Baker he played a bad game, but they still won. And he was angry after the game and blew off his media session. And my take was on it, like that comes off as selfish that you only care about how you did and not how the team did. Do you think the other guys in the locker room took it that way?
Hell yeah. It's like, man up. Listen, when everything is great, of course, everyone wants to be behind the microphone and tell everyone just how great you played. But when things are bad, when things aren't going well, hey, you got to have that same type of energy and address it and take ownership and accountability for your bad play and take ownership of it. So, yes, he's had too many of those moments where it's head scratching when it comes to leadership. And again, I go back to it's immaturity. You got to grow up in this league. This is a big boy league. This league is going to move on with or without you.
DeQuil, how long do you think it takes for that to occur here? Right. At some point, we got to get past the point of no return here, right?
He is who he is, and I think if he was a better leader, and he was that leader that it was that unquestioned leader, I think that decision to bring in Deshaun is a little more difficult. Now you'll probably see guys come out in the locker room and say, "Hey, Baker's our guy, no matter what." You know, we would have heard a lot more of those comments coming from the locker room, coming from current players. But again, you know, it all depends on where you are financially, contractually, and all that good stuff. But I think that has something to do with, you know what, we're going to pull the trigger on Deshaun right now. We're not waiting, even though it is a significant upgrade at the position.
They had the chance. They went for it.
I'll say this last point I'll make. Towards the back nine of my career, obviously I was never the tallest, strongest, fastest guy, but my leadership, you know, I was getting paid for my play and leadership.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
literally that was what Chuck Pagano was like, hey, we love what you bring. We understand you can teach young guys all these different things that add value to you. And if he's not bringing that, then what do you grade him on? His talent. Because you can overlook Patrick Mahomes type of talent if he lacks in leadership. And, you know, Baker isn't that guy. So he's got to figure out just who he is as a quarterback, as a player, and he has to become a better leader, in my opinion.
Makes sense. I think he wants to be a great leader. He talks like he's a great leader, but leadership is earned. It's not spoken in. And I think that a lot of things that he did led to some questionable decision making by his teammates looking at him like, is this the guy?